Hey guys, when I moved to the UK over 7 years ago, I remember being extremely overwhelmed. I didn't even know where to start. So I made a list of 6 things that I think you should do on your first week in the UK. But we have one major side note. Getting a place to live is pretty vital when you first move to the UK. If you don't have that sorted already, I would focus on that, because you need to have a roof over your head. Now for me, I moved to the UK to live with my British boyfriend. So I moved into his property. So I already knew where I was going to live, and that was not a issue that I had to face. So finding someplace to live has to be priority number 1. You need to have a place to sleep at night, whether that is a flat where you're crashing with a friend, or you are staying at an Airbnb, or perhaps you're staying at a hostel. Whatever it is, you need to figure that out. But I do think that this 6-item list is what you should be doing in addition to that. Number 1, you need to jump into a regular routine as quickly as possible. By this, I mean you need to be waking up at a similar time every day, eating meals at the appropriate time in your new British time zone. You also need to be doing regular activities at regular times at the day. And you also, very importantly, need to go to bed at a proper time. By setting yourself a general routine that follows your new time zone as quickly as possible, it means that you are going to get through jet lag that much faster. When you first move to the UK and everything is overwhelming, it's very easy to stay up really late, to sleep in really late, to wake up at weird times, and you eat when you're hungry. And honestly, it makes everything so much worse. So don't do that. I have a whole video on my channel about jet lag and how to get through it as quickly as possible. So if that is something that you're worried about, check out that video. But after this one. Number 2, something that is extremely important to do your first week in the UK is to get a UK SIM card. Now, pretty much everything is done through your cell phone or your mobile, as the Brits call it. So having a working UK number, having data is extremely important, and you should absolutely focus on getting this your first week. SIM cards in the UK are extremely accessible, and they're also really reasonably priced. So you can go to a supermarket and get a £10 SIM card and immediately have a working phone number and have data, and you're good to go. That particular SIM card probably won't be with you your entire time in the UK, but it is a great way to get started, because I do everything with my phone. I pay for stuff with my phone. I book train tickets with my phone. I use the map for directions. Just literally everything is done on a mobile. So having a working one is extremely important. Number 3, something that I think people overlook is you need to explore your new village, town, city, or neighborhood. Moving abroad can be really isolating. It's really overwhelming. That's just how it is. And I know I felt very detached from literally everything around me. So I made a point of going for walks as often as I could. I set myself sort of a generic routine. So I'm getting up at the same times, I'm going to bed at the same times, but I'd also set in time to explore. And with time, I learned how the roads connected, how to get to certain points of interest. When I started feeling a bit more brave, I added in a bus or a train and sort of expanded outwards. And in time, it felt like home. But you have to put in the work and the time to get there. Even now, when I move property, so I've lived in a variety of different places in the southeast of England. When I move to a new sort of region or a new city, I make a point of exploring, because it makes you feel that much more connected to that area. Number 4, if you think that you're going to be using the train at all while you're in the UK, definitely get yourself a rail card. I have saved hundreds of pounds with my rail card, and I use the train maybe a couple of times a month, and it pays for itself. A rail card is basically like a train membership. There's a whole bunch of different ones. They're usually based on your age. So I have the 26 to 30-year-old rail card. Most rail cards are about £30, and they are good for a year. So you pay your £30, you get your rail card, and every time you book train tickets, you can apply your rail card and you will get a discount. So I would definitely look at getting that rail card early on, especially if you're going to be exploring or if you are going to be taking the train to get to like job interviews and that kind of stuff. Having a rail card right from the beginning is just super helpful. Number 5, one of my personal favorites. I want you to find a local cafe and just sit in it. I think the UK has so many wonderful cafes, little tea rooms, little coffee shops. I love them. And one of my favorite things to do is to find a new cafe, a coffee house, a tea room, whatever. Go and sit and maybe do some work on my laptop or maybe read a book, maybe meet a friend. Just enjoy life. And I know this seems really stupid, but I think a lot of people overlook it. When you first arrive to the UK, it feels like there's so many things that you need to do. So many things you need to apply for and to fill out applications and to plan and all this kind of stuff. And it's very stressful. And those things do need to happen and you will get to them in time. But I do think there's something very special. Take an hour out of your day. Maybe when you're exploring your new city, find yourself a cafe, have a sit, have a nice drink, maybe a pastry, and just enjoy living in the UK. I also find as someone who is quite introverted and quite anxious, this was kind of difficult at first, especially to do it by myself, but the more that you do these everyday things, the more that it feels natural and it feels like home. Number 6, you are not going to guess it because it is go on a staycation if you can. One regret that I have when I moved to the UK, I hit the ground running and I immediately was applying for jobs, going to interviews. After about a month of this, I started working and then I just went right into life in the UK, which definitely has its benefits, especially if you don't have a lot of savings to live off of while you're looking for that job. But before I started working, I wish that I had taken even just a week to just explore and to go on a holiday around the UK. It just would have been nice before settling into a 9-to-5. Now, thankfully, the UK has some really good holiday time, way more than what you'd experience in the US or in Canada, but it just is one of my regrets. I wish I had just taken a week to maybe go up to Scotland or go out to Devon and just like have a holiday here in the UK. Now you'll notice on this list, I do not have look for a job. But let me explain. I started applying for jobs immediately. I actually started a week before I arrived in the UK. And that's fine. You know, it worked out for me in the end, but I don't think it would necessarily hurt to take a week to just settle into your new life in the UK. And realistically, you should move to the UK with at least sort of 2 to 3 months of savings in case it takes a while to get a job. So realistically, waiting a week to start applying shouldn't really matter too much. But I do think waiting a week to start applying has some major benefits. So just something to consider. Other things that are not on this list are getting a doctor or a GP and getting a dentist. Now, these are really important, especially a doctor, but I don't think they need to be done within the first week of your time in the UK. They definitely should happen sort of within the first month. Definitely when you know where you're living and you're going to be staying at that address, then I would start looking at GPs and dentists and that kind of stuff. But it doesn't need to be the first week. Moving abroad is scary. It's overwhelming. There's a lot to do and it can feel like you just need to get everything done when the reality is there are some things that are quite vital, like finding a place to live. But just take a deep breath. You will get to it. You will figure all the little intricacies out. It's what is part of the expat experience. So just take a minute to enjoy the fact that you're actually here. If you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. Check out this video about how to get your first mobile phone, since that is extremely helpful. But until then, I'll see you in the next one.